Hello, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team. And what we're going to be talking about today is kind of the Cold One, whether it be the Cold One riding Saurus or even their characters, the Scarvat or the Old Blood in Lizardmen. So going into 8th, Cavalry really has taken a back seat to what it once was. I mean, Cold One Cav in 7th, even for Lizardmen, wasn't all that popular. But even now that they can't even be really breaking blocks, a lot of people, you don't see them using them at all. So I was asked the question, well, Malorian, what can you even be using these for? And they're actually, I think, still having their places. Now, to begin with, if you have them on the flank, which is probably where you should always be having your cavalry anyway, they can already start doing two functions. One, they can start bypassing the army to start rushing things like war machines, because even though we still have our typical things like our chameleon skinks or our pterodons, it could be doing that. The one main good thing about these Cold One Cav is the fact that they're so resilient. You know, they still have that 2+ save, and you know, just a smattering of arrows isn't going to go and send them running or killing them all off. Another thing they can do is they can still be a very good supportive combat role, whether it is to be hitting the flanks and adding kills, because remember, we still have our riders with 2 attacks and a mount that's fairly strong as well, so they're very good at adding that damage to an already ongoing combat, and also getting, you know, things like the flank bonus. But I also think maybe they can even be doing things more on their own. I know I just played a game where I was up against some Dragon Princes. They were off on a flank, and I was very worried about them. And the reason why I was worried about them is I knew when they charged in that, you know, they'd beat me in combat, but because they're cavalry, I mean, my blocks are going to be steadfast, right? But the problem is that when you're on the flanks, you're typically out of range of that general and BSB. So even though I'm testing on my base leadership, depending on what race you are, that leadership could be fairly mediocre. In my case, it was Orcs, and so I was based off of leadership 7. So, I mean, do you really want to gamble and hope that you're going to be steadfast on that 7? And as well, with part of this leadership, the Cold One Cav can basically do the same thing. Whenever they charge in, they should be winning depending on the size and what you're up against. But they also have the added element of fear. So again, they're going to have to take a leadership test for that, which is probably out of range of the General and VSB. And then once you beat them, which is even easier if they fail a fear test, well then they have to take that second test, right? So, and I mean, you can always be argued as well that these units are killing enough that they can just keep on fighting, because even unlike some things like the Elves, where after the charge and the lances are gone, they're fairly weak. Well, you still have these strength 4 Saurus that are still going to be kind of grinding things down. So they could still be breaking down whatever they're fighting, slowly winning, always forcing you to take tests, and eventually you're going to break. So there is that thinking. Apart from that, you have to be still very careful with them. They can die very easily to some of the war machines out there, especially things like an organ gun. But what if we start relating this to characters? So if you have a great way to have your character having a better armor save in 7th is, just throw them in a Cold One, right? Boom, your armor save is better by 2, and it's very easy. You know, for something that has, you know, your Scarvets that have a 5+ scaly skin, you have your light armor for a 4+, give them a shield for a 3+, throw them on that steed, and all of a sudden you have a 1+ save, you know, and you haven't really put anything on them fancy, like, say, like an enchanted shield or something. The problem is, of course, now, if you put them on that inside a unit of regular Saurus, now he can't take the look out, sir. So if you're ever against something with a cannon or something like a stone thrower, they're just going to drop it right on his head and kill him. So, what if you're going to be taking them like that, then you're going to have to probably put them in those units of Saurus Cav. So, if you wanted to be sure, because I was saying before that, you know, the Saurus Cav on the flanks should be winning depending on what you're up against. Well, of course, if you add that character, now it's going to be pretty much a sure thing, right? You could also be using them as a platform so that while they're moving up to do these duties of either hunting the war machine, supporting combat, you know, taking off blocks that are outside of the general BSB, that could be a platform for firing out those characters. Because one of the great things about these Scarvets and Old Bloods is that they're fantastic in combat. They have more combats or more attacks than regular characters, it's very easy to set them up with weapons that are going to make them perfect character killers. And so it could always be that the first turn, the cavalry are moving up. Second turn, the characters are rushing out to do some character assassinations, or even just rushing out by themselves to do war machines, leaving then on your third turn the cavalry open to do whatever other duties they were supposed to be doing. So you can be kind of working like that. And then of course if you're ever against an army that didn't have a cannon or a stone thrower, well then there's no harm in putting them in the blocks anyway. So there are still some uses. And a nice thing to look at is the fact that whereas before you had to really try and preserve that armor save, now that you're maxing at a 1, you have some more options open to you. So let's say for example with your Old Blood, you know, he starts with a 4+, light armor is going to be a 3+, on the Cold one that's going to be a 1+ already, so even without a shield he's already maxed out. And so, whereas before, in 7th, you might throw in a shield, enchanted shield, to make him have an insane armor save, like -1. Well, now you can't do that. So that opens up options like, well, maybe I'll just give him a great weapon, right? Make him stronger. Source characters are fairly slow anyway, so I'm probably going to be hitting last anyway, so what the hell, right? So there's a few things like that you can be working in. And finally, I would never really go and forget this option too, that there's always that nice little trick where you have that 100-point item where it makes all cavalry within, I think it was at 6 inches stubborn. And so what you could always do, if they don't have characters to assassinate you, is that you could say have your Old Blood with that item in one block, and then on the blocks in the flank, they're just being led by a Scarvet that's also on the Cold one, and because of that stubborn being passed on, you're basically making your main block all stubborn now, which could be extremely powerful. And of course those characters are very hard to take out, so you're probably going to be holding on to it for a long time. And then you don't need to worry about having these massive blocks. You could go for a little bit smaller, since you know that you're stubborn anyway, and put more points into other things, like say Stegodons would be smashing into the flank, or something like that. So the main thing I'm trying to get across here is that there are still uses for them. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more creative, but sometimes the best way to pull a win over your opponent is to be tricking them in the first place. So if you still have these in your collection, don't just sell them or, you know, throw them in the garbage type thing. You know, pull them out once in a while. You know, give them a try. Throw them on the flank. Go and try and have your characters there for some character assassination, or do that stubborn thing. You know, it's going to drive your opponents insane when they try and smash through the lines, think that they're going to crush you like nothing, and then, oh my god, your entire center 3 blocks are all stubborn. So give it a try, and post a comment. Let me know how it goes. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to have a second one up right away. Bye.